Romans 12:2 simply says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So in order for your change to come, you have to change your way of thinking.
Welcome back to Be the Ram Live, webinar number 13. This is Coach McKissic, Elder McKissic, Anthony McKissic Sr. Whatever it is that you know me by, it's me. Today I have a special guest, my lovely wife, Leanna McKissic. And Leanna and I, we're going to talk about a few things we thought that was near and dear to our hearts. And we're just going to go. We hope that you're blessed by this webinar. We hope that something that we say will touch your life, touch your marriage, and just, be a seed planted into a great place. We'll start off with a small prayer. Jesus, thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for this marriage ministry. Thank you for the Be the Ram webinar. I just thank you for what you've done. Thank you for what you're doing. And thank you for the things that are in store. Amen. So Proverbs 18:22 says, when a man finds a wife, he finds good thing and he finds favor. I think that I've truly found my favor when it comes to Leanna. And we're coming up on 5 years of marriage. I can say that, it's not perfect, but it's been perfect for me, perfect for us. And, it's been a great marriage. And I look forward to growing old with her. So we're going to have on this webinar something that we haven't done before. It will be 5 questions with the max. And we'll just have 5 questions that we've pre-scripted. And we're just going to answer them and hope that maybe that's a question that you've had and it could help you in life. So the first question that we'll have is, I knew she was the one when, and then she'll answer from the female perspective or the wife's perspective. I knew she was the one when. I knew Leanna was the one when I could not stop thinking about her. We worked together, but we really weren't too social with each other. I was a guy in the gym, she was a math teacher, and we really didn't, communicate a lot. And then after a while, we started talking, and we would just pass by in the hallways. We have small talk, small conversations, and I started seeing how interesting she was, and how kind of a heart she had, and how much of a loving person she was. And I just wanted to know more and more about her. And what really got me is that when I was invited to a church service and she was dancing, and I saw the way she worshiped God and the way that she just carried herself in ministry. And even though she wasn't a minister, she wasn't, a pastor or anything like that. It was just the way that she flowed in that moment. I said, wow, now this is somebody that, I could really see myself with, because I knew the kind of person I wanted to be. I wasn't quite where I wanted to be and who I should be, but I knew being connected to someone like that I could see myself going up in life and not down. So I really knew she was the one when I saw the way she loved God, because I know she loved God and I loved God. We can figure the rest out. We can get together, we can work that thing out. I love the way that she carried herself. She always seemed like she was engaged or married, even when she was single. And I'm not saying she wore, dresses down to her, to the ground, and she was just perfect. But I would say that she didn't put herself out there like other females that I knew. She wasn't, thirsty for attention. She carried herself as if, we all thought she was married, but she wasn't, so it was just a true blessing. So that's why I knew that she was the one.
I knew Anthony was the one when I stopped running, and I prayed about it, and I saw the way that he cared for his children, and I also admired the way that he didn't tear people down in certain situations. He wasn't negative. He handled it in a very positive way. And he'll jokingly tell the story as far as how I, kept kind of saying, no, this isn't for me. This is not what God has for me. But it's truly of God. So I knew when I finally stopped running and just kind of opened my eyes to what God was preparing me for. Number 2, advice for marrying a divorced guy with kids. Well, my advice for anyone who is dating or is considering dating someone with kids, think before you leave. Think before you leave. And I'm not saying that, in a negative way. I think this is exactly what God had for me. But if it was not God, then I don't know that I would have moved forward and worked so hard and read books and tried to figure out, how would I be, the best support system for him, because it had to be clear from the beginning that it was not just me marrying him. I was marrying him, but along with him came 2, beautiful children. And my son, he was 1.5 years when I met him, and I mean, this is the life that he knows is Mama L. I've always been there. So if you're looking for somebody to just date and have fun with, I would say, no, don't just date, somebody just to be having fun, especially if you plan on being around children and stuff like that. It's just not a good idea. But if you see this going somewhere and you believe that this is what God has for you, then I would say enter it with wisdom and take things slowly. Don't have too many expectations right away. Like, don't go in thinking that it's going to be one big, happy, blended family, because it may not be that. We make our blended family look, very easy, but it's taken a lot of work. And sometimes it's not as blended as it is, and other times it is. So as far as advice for marrying a divorced guy with kids, don't count him out just because he's divorced with kids, but go into it with some wisdom and really pray about it.
Number 2 for me, advice for second marriages. And when I mean second marriages is as from a male's perspective. You've been married, you've tried it, you've been there, you've done that, you got the divorce, and you got everything that comes along with the divorce. My advice, and I can only speak for myself, for going into a second marriage is, first of all, forgive yourself. You really have to get down, and be honest with yourself and, what part you played in the demise of the relationship and the downfall and the divorce. You really have to admit, what you did. You have to admit that, hey, I could have done this wrong, this differently. I did this wrong. I could have done this differently. And then forgive yourself for those things and take some time to mourn. They say that being divorced is almost worse than death, because at death you don't see the person again. With divorce, you really have to see it over and over and over. So take that time of healing and mourning, and then trust yourself and let it be okay to try something. Don't count everybody out from the mistakes that happened in your first or second marriage. You don't say, well, all women are the same, and I'll never be able to do this, I'll never be able to do that. I'll say just give it a chance. And I'm not saying, hop out there and run and get married. I'm saying give love a chance, give life a chance, give God a chance to give you, what you need. Everything happens for a reason. And I would just really say, if you're thinking about maybe should I get remarried or should I attempt to pursue this person that I know they're looking for marriage, then pray, ask God, and then when you go into that relationship, leave all the baggage and the mental baggage, the physical baggage, leave all of those things, at the door. So don't go into marriage number 2 or potential marriage number 2 with the strategies for marriage number 1. Is you're punishing the second wife for what the first wife did, and you have a shorter tolerance. You're saying, well, I'm just not putting up with this. I see where this is going. I've been down this road, because you don't know what this new spouse, you don't know where they're going with it, because everyone is different. So you definitely don't want to punish spouse number 2 for what spouse number 1 did. Also, I'd say, let everything be new. Start new traditions and, new normals for your life and for your kids' life if you have kids. The last thing I would say is, make sure you have a firm line drawn in the sand. Make sure you don't allow that past relationship and past marriage to bleed too far into your new marriage and your new relationship, because you never know, they could be trying to sabotage, what's going on with this new relationship, because they don't want to see you happy. It could be one of those things where they do want to see you happy, but just the pressure and the uncomfort that your new spouse would feel, having to always look in the face of your old spouse, and you're always on the phone with them, or they're over here, and you just really want to say, all right, this is how we do things. This is my wife now, and this is what we do. Now we want to make sure that you stay over here and you stay in your lane, because if this marriage or relationship fails, you want to make sure it fails because of what you all did, not because of what this person, that this marriage or relationship already failed. So give the new one, a chance. Give love a chance is the best thing I'd say. Number 3 is how to love your spouse. There's a book called Love Languages, The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman, and our bishop gave us this book during marriage counseling. And I would say, in order to love your spouse, you need to find out their love language. My wife's love language is quality time and acts of service. And quality time is something that I don't have a lot of. So, I have to really push myself to love her in her language. I have my own language, and she'll tell you about it. But how I have to love my wife with quality time is put my phone down, plan and be thoughtful, listen to what she's saying, even if she just wants to talk about her day at work, if she wants to vent. But sometimes I don't want to, I don't want to hear it. I just be honest. But I want to hear what she has to say. So even though it's not, I don't want to hear something negative, that I'd rather her be telling me than to be telling Jody. So, I listen to her. Acts of service, something she likes to give. So I say, for example, I think it was one of our Christmases, everyone made, what do they call it? Gift blessing bags, and you put a lot of items in that you would give to someone who's in need. You see them on the side of the road or in a place, and you give it to them, and have toothbrushes, toothpaste, socks, things that we wouldn't think of. So part of our Christmas tradition was to make blessing bags, and I really know that she probably felt so loved by the fact that everyone was here putting things in bags. Now they, our guests probably didn't know that was her love language, but I'm sure her love tank was, filled that day, because she was getting love. She was getting loved by everybody. Not only was she getting quality time because it was focused on, her. We weren't talking about the game. We weren't doing this and that, but we were also making these bags, so she was getting double dipping at the same time. So I say, for me, in order to love my wife, I need to learn how to, practice quality time and acts of service. And when I am slipping and I know she's bugging and she's being moody, I have to ask myself, well, have you been loving her in her way? Not just saying, hey, I love you, but actually loving her the way she needs to be loved.
How to love using love languages. So when we were introduced to the 5 love languages, it was a life-altering thing for me, because I never thought about, what it meant to love someone the way that they need to be loved. And people say that, But love language is not even just about in your marriage. It's about, in any relationship. Your children have love languages. It's important to understand that it's a cycle. You have this love tank, and while you're loving someone in their love language, their tank is being filled up, and as their tank is being filled up, they're more equipped to love you in the way that you need to be loved. It's really hard to love from an empty tank. It's like the whole thing about it is hard to pour from an empty cup. And the interesting thing about love languages is that you have to be very intentional about it. My husband's love language is physical touch and words of affirmation. And his primary love language is words of affirmation, and his secondary is physical touch. And so what that means is those are the two main ways that he feels loved. So I have to be very careful about the words that I use with him and towards him, because he connects words to love. And so if I use negative words towards him, that's not sending him love. And so I have to be very careful about that. And that takes time. It still takes time. It's just like if you're learning French and that's not your first language. If you're learning Spanish, it's going to take time. You're going to get some translations wrong at first. You're not going to conjugate the verb like you're supposed to conjugate the verb. Those things, will happen. It just takes practice. And it's something I'm still working at, because I would have to write notes to make sure that I said something. Especially being that I came from the thought process that you don't need a cookie every time you do something. Like, you don't need a golden sticker. Like, you're supposed to do that. Like, okay, but it goes so much deeper than that when that's the way that he communicates love. And you kind of have to put that aside and say, yeah, this is what I'm thinking, this is how I feel about it, but is it more important how I think or feel, or is it more important that my husband feels loved? And for me, it's more important that he feels loved. So, and just using the love language, I say you just have to be intentional about it. It may not be something that you're going to be comfortable with, but I think that makes it even more special, because I know when he's spending quality time, I know that he's put some thought and effort into it. And, vice versa, when I'm just pouring over him with these words of affirmation, or taking the time to, do something simple as, rubbing his arm, he knows that I'm being intentional about that, and I'm thinking of a way to communicate love to him. Love languages are very powerful. I really recommend that you read that book if you haven't read it before, and maybe read it, a few times as you need to, because sometimes you got to brush up on things. Like I took French, for example, from second grade through high school, and I still know some of it when I hear it, but I still have to brush up, at times. So number 4, married but busy, how to manage. So we are both very busy as far as with coaching and ministry and the kids and all their sports, and our 2 and 3 and 4 jobs that we have. And it says, how do you manage? Very carefully. Sometimes are better than others. Sometimes it's just kind of like, something's not going to get done today, and that's okay. But our family calendar is color coded with everybody's stuff. So I think organization and planning ahead of time helps. I think that's something that we're still working through as well, because as the kids get older, they participate in different sports, and now with one in elementary and one in middle school, one sport may be on this side of town, somebody else is going on this side of town. Meanwhile, he has to coach on the other side of town, and I have to do an oil class on a different side of town, and everybody still has to get where they need to go. So it's married but busy, but it's a good busy. So it's not being a busybody, but it's a good busy.
For my number 4, married but busy, that's something that we're doing together. As she said, we're both busy. We have the same amount of kids. We have work. We have, like Jamaicans, we are like have probably 10 jobs between the two of us. And I would say, like she said, our family calendar is very organized, it's color coordinated. And adding on to that is communication. You know, just because it's on the calendar doesn't even mean we had time to look at the calendar. So it's, you know, just saying, hey, you know, I understand we hadn't been on a date and, you know, 2 months. But if you look on there, hey, on Wednesday, we got a date scheduled. So, you know, find some time to, you know, pick you out a nice outfit and things like that. So at least what that does is when we're busy and we're feeling unloved, because hers is quality time, mine is physical touch, she can't touch me or, you know, speak to me when I'm not there. She can't touch me while I'm at work or while she's at work. And I can't sit and stare in her eyes and gaze in her beauty when she's selling oils or when I'm at a game. So the saying, hey, remember that we have a date coming up, it gives you something to think about when you're feeling low. You're like, you know what, if I could just make it to Wednesday, you know, I know, boom, but, you know, it's going to happen. Whatever it is, that love language is going to be spoken then. I think it's just, you know, no more than just being, you know, organized, communicate. As she said, something's just not going to get done. So just kind of saying, all right, you know what, I'm not going to play my video game today. I like playing video games, but I'm going to give that up so I can sit with her. Even if we do nothing, I did nothing with her. Instead of her doing nothing alone and me doing nothing alone, we did nothing together. So just, you know, picking and choosing your battles, deciding, you know, what we're going to do. Number 5. Okay.
You said, you know, something about when we're not together, as far as like communicating those love languages. Mm-hmm. There are ways, you know, that I can communicate, you know, words of wisdom. Words of affirmation. I'm gonna do that over again.
All right.
So you mentioned that when we're not together, like with the phones, you know, it may not be as easy to communicate the love languages, but, you know, I think there is a way for me to communicate words of affirmation to him, you know, through the phone. There is a way, even if I'm not physically touching him, there is a way, married ladies, to communicate physical touch to him. There's a way to do that. And there's a way for, you know, him to communicate quality time. It could be something as simple as when I get the message from him, you know, I know that he took the time to, you know, think through that message and send it to me. So it's not exactly the same, but because of our busy schedules, we try to take advantage of our resources. You know, we do we send messages, you know, midday love and something simple, you know, XOXO, midday love, or, you know, emoji and, you know, whatever else we may send. So I would just add in that part.
Yeah, I'm glad she added that because it made me think, you know, as of like today, you know, she came up and, you know, I'm used to, you know, this first time we hadn't worked together in 8 years or 8 or 9 years, maybe 10. We were both teachers, but today, this year's first year. So today, you know, she came in, she had, you know, lunch for me and Chick-fil-A, and it was something as simple as her going to a doctor's appointment with our daughter, but taking the time to stop by and bring me lunch. You know, I didn't ask for it. She just, you know, came, and, you know, getting to see your spouse and, you know, kind of like a show off, like, yeah, that's mine, you know, you get to see this beautiful woman that's yours, you know, it's unexplainable, especially as a guy, when, you know, your good thing comes in. So that just, you know, just little things like that make you feel good. And being that we work the same field, we get to plan together. So we have Christmas breaks off, and we have Thanksgiving, we have summer and spring. So we try to take advantage of that. When I became a head coach and I controlled my schedule, I started having my practice from, you know, basketball 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. So therefore, you know, over the summers and weekends, before they even really got good out of bed, I was already home. So that made a big difference instead of, you know, having my practice from 12 to 1, which means all the time before 12 to 2, all the time before 12, we can't do anything because I have practice coming up. All the time after 12, it's already 2 o'clock, so really, it's 2 o'clock. So her day has been on hold all the way to 2 o'clock, which is almost a regular work day because I decided to have practice. We do the FCA camp over the summer. We'll go down there for a week. We try to go down to Destin for spring break, every spring break. This year we'll be going back. We hadn't been in, a year, or was it 2 years? Took a year off?
Maybe 2.
Maybe 2 years off, but I think it's important to say, you know what, we're going. Whether we put it on the credit card, whether it's a 3-day trip, a 2-day trip, we're going to make it happen and go down there. So it's just, having your mindset and say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make sure we're making each other and our family a priority and not putting those things ahead of us. Anything to add to that one? Number 5. Benefits of marriage from a male's perspective. A lot of people, out there saying that, marriage is no longer important, that, you don't have to get married, things like that, and you really don't. I'm not saying that if you're single, that, it's a problem. Paul was single. He said, bitch, you stay like me, but I'd rather you get married and burn in passion. And, basically said, Paul said he prefer you stay like him, which is single, so that, you can devote all your time to God. But if you can't, I'd rather you married and burn, which is burn and, lust and things like that, and you can't control yourself. And if you ain't serving God anyway, so you really can't use that excuse to say, well, Paul was single, but Paul was also serving God the whole time. But I say the benefits, that there is benefits to marriage, I say you get to have sex, and be happy about it, and you don't have to feel guilty. And, you love a person, you get to invest. Men are about results and, what can they put their efforts and resources towards that won't just go into the wind. So if you think about it from a male perspective, you have a wife and a family, yes, I'd rather spend my money on my wife and my time on my wife because I know it's a good investment. It's gonna bear fruit. I want to see her happy. It's easier to go to work when I know, I'm doing all this hard work because it's bringing happiness to the person that I vowed to spend the rest of my life with. Just the having someone to always talk to. I think through marriage, you're growing together. It's not about, right now it's about that looking back and saying, oh, you know what, 5 years ago, we were here and, I met my wife and she lost her grandma and, I lost an aunt and I lost probably a couple of people, right? And just having that person that's been there with you through, job losses, been there with you through sickness, and she had surgeries and, the scars, they tell a story and I know the story. Someone new, if you're just single and bouncing around, you show up and I have this long scar on my leg and or I'm walking with a limp, like my wife has a scar from a surgery, or I know what that scar means. The new guy may say, oh, I don't like when it's, or question it. But for me, it's, I'm so happy that I was there to experience that with you. I was through, on your side while we beat this thing together. I don't look like I used to look like when I was 25 or 6 whenever we met. But she was there the whole time. We grew to. Lastly, before she gives her number 5, I would say working my last job, something dropped on me. And, we like to complain, my wife isn't this, she doesn't do that. We can get into a whole pity party, especially when we get with the guys. And I started thinking, I'm looking around and I'm just start saying, I'm so thankful that my wife doesn't do this. I'm so glad that she's not in the club every weekend, that she's not half naked. I don't have to tell her how to dress. She knows how to be modest. She knows, what I like. I don't have to tell her that, hey, okay, when we're going around these people, can you act like a lady? Can you do this? And, can you go, prepare yourself for a job, or hey, clean the house, do this, do that. So I start saying, well, that list of, my wife is not this, or I start comparing it to the other she's not. So I'd much rather have someone who, this little small area that we can deal with, versus this long list of things she doesn't do. So start looking at what she doesn't do versus what she doesn't do, if that makes any sense.
Number 5, benefits of marriage from a woman's perspective.
Marriage still matters.
Oh, marriage still matters. Number 5, benefits of marriage from a woman's perspective. What's funny is that I jokingly but seriously posted on Facebook the other day that one of the joys of marriage is being able to not have to pump my own gas when it's cold outside. So that was, I was joking, but I was serious at the same time. The benefits of marriage, coverage, being covered, and trusting someone's connection to God. So if I didn't trust his relationship with God, then I couldn't trust him to be my covering and to be my children's covering. So that would be number 1 for me. It would be trusting my covering. Another benefit would be favor, because I feel like so many different things were released, once we were married. Now we became, targets, but at the same time, there was so much favor that came upon us. And as we went higher up, certain things couldn't get to us. And so there may have been, other tactics that would come against us. But I truly believe that this marriage was God's plan. It was not my plan at all. I was not the little girl who had the pretend wedding, with the pillowcase on your head as your veil. That wasn't me. So I know that this is all God, and for me, that's the benefit of it. The benefit of knowing that it's something that's so much bigger than me, and that He bears my weight. He bears my burdens. When I can't do it, I don't have to, because I give them to Him and He gives them to God, or He carries those things Himself. So that's the biggest thing for me, covering. And what's funny is not a lot of times, but He can be my scapegoat. People ask me about something, I say, well, let me talk to my husband first. And they're thinking that I'm being this great submissive wife, which I am, but I'm also buying myself time to decide if it's something that I want to do or not. But no, I'm just joking.
So I totally agree with everything she said, and I would say from a guy's perspective, just being that someone trusts you enough to, say, hey, let me talk to my husband, or, to be the covering, it comes with a load of responsibility, but also as a self-esteem boost that someone, trusts you enough and believes in you enough to say, you know what, I'm going to tell my husband he's going to take care of it. Even if you don't feel like you can get the job done, you're going to, because you feel like, oh, somebody depends on me. And all men want to be needed, whether they admit it or not. We want projects, we want tasks, we want things to go fix. And, we kind of like just sitting around like, hey, what do I do now? What's next? What do I do now? And even my son, as a young man, he's only 8, but he already has those tendencies. He'll say, what next? Like, what do I do now? Like, or he'll come up and he'll say, well, Mama, hell, I cleaned the bathroom. okay. But really what he's saying is, I did something, like give me a cookie, feed my love language or whatnot, as a kid. But, I really appreciate you all for listening. I don't know, we don't know where this is going. We don't know who's watching it. It could be in, here in Atlanta area. It could be in LA. It could be in China. It could be in Russia. It could be, wherever you are. I hope this, found you where you are. We've only been married for, coming up on 5 years. So we're definitely not the marriage experts. I would say that we're perfectly imperfect for each other. I love my wife. I know I'm far from perfect. I die daily to myself. I repent and I ask God, what can I do to be a better husband? When you think about quitting, you just keep on fighting. And, hey, something, God has us together for a reason. I know this is a ministry. So if you've, anything that you've heard that you say, hey, yeah, that blessed me, that is something that's going to stick with me, comment, subscribe, send a message. We'll respond to you. If you have other questions, say, hey, what do you do in this situation? I know you guys aren't married 20, 30 years, but, you guys are similar to my spouse and I. So, hey, what do you do in this case? And, blended families, we talked about that. We had a whole Bible study series on, blended, splendid, and smooth. So, look to hear from that soon. A couple things I asked you to support. The intro song that you heard was by Tawana Marie. She does a lot of things in the Atlanta area, a lot of singing. So you want to support her, add her to her Facebook page. My wife, Leanna McKissic, she is a doTERRA wellness advocate, and I'll let her give you a 30-second of what that is.
Pretty much, I educate people about the use of essential oils. It's all scientific research. That's the part that really got me, is the research and the case studies behind it. I'm not an expert, or anything like that, but I've studied, I've done my research. So yeah, I educate people about oils. I host classes, I do online classes, share samples of oils, and then kind of go from there.
So make sure you click the link. It'll be a link down at the bottom for her website and her Facebook group. You can join there, learn more about essential oils. If you don't know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you can ask Him, to come in your life and ask for repentance for your sins. The things we're telling you, they come from a Bible-based marriage. So if you don't agree with them, it's okay. You don't have to agree. We're just telling you from, our perspective and the things that we've come to know because of the being equally yoked in that manner. If you are considering leaving marriage, the only thing I can say from my perspective is fight one day at a time. You cannot win tomorrow's battle today. So if you could just stay married for one more day, which would be today, then you can deal with tomorrow when it gets here. You can't do anything about yesterday. You don't know what's coming tomorrow. If you just fight today, win day by day, you may say this person is getting on my nerves. This is it. If you could just fight enough to get to tomorrow, win the day. Just win the day. That'd be my biggest advice. Win the day. Don't worry about tomorrow. Deal with tomorrow when it gets here. Any last goodbyes or comments? All right, so this is 5 Questions with the Max. Be the Round Webinar Live, number 13, and we're out of here.
All I wanna do is worship, because you've been so good to me. All I wanna do is worship, because you've given me